As somebody who travels full-time, I'm often asked what the best place to visit is, what my favorite city in the world happens to be. This is probably the worst possible question to ask somebody because best is one of the most relative terms that we can use to describe something. I'm Colin Wright, and you are watching Consider This. So you wouldn't go into a sushi restaurant and compare the rainbow roll that you get to the burger that you had at another restaurant down the street. You wouldn't do this because these are two completely different types of food, two completely different types of restaurant. All of the standards that you're using to measure the quality of the food are completely different. It's apples to oranges. Now, the same is true with cities that you might visit, and any country or any other place that you might visit around the world. The standards for judging each different place are completely different standards, and trying to compare New York to Calcutta, for example, would be a fool's errand, because both are wonderful for certain reasons, and both are tragically bad for other reasons. And the way that you feel about these different cities kind of depends on your preferences. So I tend to prefer, for instance, a normal place. I like to get an idea of how regular people live in the cities that I go live in. So when I lived in Prague, I did not rent an apartment in Old Town, Prague 1, because that's kind of the tourist part of town. That's where everything costs a little bit more and everything is kind of a theme park version of what you would find elsewhere. Instead, I lived next door, near Náměstí Míru in Prague 2. This is close enough to where all the tourists come into town, so it's an interesting place to take a walk, but it's far enough away that the prices are more normalized, the grocery stores are not targeted at tourists, they're targeted at people who actually live there, and I was able to take a walk on a normal day without being overwhelmed by people wearing matching t-shirts and hats and selfie sticks. The same is true of, clothing. If you are a student of fashion, maybe you'll prefer to purchase clothing that's a little bit more avant-garde. You're trying to make a bigger statement with whatever it is that you're wearing. For me, somebody who travels full-time, wearing things that are a little bit generic and well-made and that fit well without being flashy is much more important for the lifestyle that I live and the priorities that I have. And so when we use the term best, it's important to remember the context of that word, best. Your best will be different from my best. Much better then, in a lot of cases, to use much more clear adjectives. You can say, is this article of clothing very rugged, or is this article of clothing very imaginative? These are much more descriptive, but it also keeps us from implying bias in best. Because when we do this, when we call a certain political party the best, we leave out all of the specifics about that, and we leave out all bias, and even go so far as to imply no bias, because we are implying that this political party is latently the best, as opposed to saying this political party maybe has the most practical ideas about how to manage the economy. This is valuable to recognize because it gives you the excuse to check in on your priorities and recognize why you think something is better than something else. It may be that you're calling something best or assuming that something is the best because you've been told that it is by somebody else. So it may be that your best is actually misaligned with what you might actually prefer in terms of clothing or politics or restaurants or whatever. Understanding the meaning of best in this way, in this context, allows us to recognize that when other people disagree with us in terms of political party or the type of operating system on their phone or whatever, it's not that they're idiots, it's just that maybe they have different preferences, different needs than we have. If you enjoyed this video, you can give me a like or a follow or leave a comment below. All of those would be excellent options and I definitely appreciate it. You can also find me elsewhere on the internet at Colin is my name. Go say howdy on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever your social network of choice happens to be. And you can find out more about me and find all kinds of books that I've written as well at colin.io.